start.
Go.
Okay, ready? How you doing, everybody? My name is Gary Stowski. I'm with the M&H Kennedy Valve Company. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to go ahead and we're going to show you how to assemble the K-81 Guardian for this upcoming 2019-2020 AWWA Hydrant Hysteria program. A couple of things I want to mention before we get started. Those of you that have had hydrants show up in their crates, you may experience a couple issues with the hydrant coming apart. First issue I want to point out is the lock nut. Lock nut's going to hold your op nut down in place. What we found with our kit here was we had to grind the sides of the lock nut down. You'll find that your multi-purpose lock nut removal tool will not fit over the lock nut entirely. So what we ask, you might be able to file it down. We find that grinding it's just going to get you there quicker to remove it and have it slide cleanly over our tool. Okay? That's the first thing. Second thing is some of the kits have shown up with the main valve assembly pin just kind of floating in place. So what we're going to do with the competition, when you guys show up at your state shows and the AWWA shows, you're going to find that this pin is going to be Loctited into place. So what I would ask it during your individual practice sessions, make sure you secure that pin in place. Don't have it floating. Otherwise, when this shaft gets turned sideways, that pin's going to float right out on you. All right. As far as the tools all remain the same. You're looking at a 15/16 socket wrench. There's a second socket wrench that's going to have a 3/4 inch socket on it. The 2 pipe wrenches are going to be utilized. As I mentioned before, the multi-purpose lock nut removal tool, and it can also be used on your dust shield to remove your dust shield. I believe that's everything. As far as the rubber, this always comes up. Really the only rubber you need to be concerned about in this hydrant is going to be the top gasket, or top O-ring, I'm sorry. Top O-ring is going to go in place. All rubber is removed from the back side of the caps. Obviously your rubber that's on the back side of the nozzle sections, that's going to remain in place. Your bottom ring is also going to remain in place. There's a dovetail cut groove. This is going to stay in extremely tight. It's not going to flop around on you. For the purposes of the competition, this O-ring is actually going to start and remain in place. You won't have to place that.
Gary, when you were mentioning the wrenches, isn't there a 7/8?
7/8 opening.
The
So
open
that, yeah, they'd be
ends.
different. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There's also a hydrant wrench that will be needed too.
Of course. And then the spanner wrench, and then the seat removal disassembly wrench.
Yep.
So what we'll do now, we'll have these fellows go ahead and get started. And we'll assemble the hydrant as you would in a competition itself. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, ready, set, go.
hydrant wrench back on. You'll hear that starter thread. Once you hear the starter thread, then you go ahead and that's about 5 full turns, roughly, to lock it in place. Once it's locked in place, it's easily going to fit in. You'll notice down on the brake flange area, your units are shown up with what we call centering straps. For the purposes of speed, we went ahead and did away with the centering strap. You'll also notice we've done away with the set screw in the lock nut area, so you can pull those out. We're just going to reef this down. And these, I should have mentioned earlier, these are going to be righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. The O-rings have been removed from the op nut.
Okay, now they're done.
And that's it.
So now as judges, we're gonna come in and we're gonna come and check everything. So first thing we're gonna look for is we wanna make sure the hydrant is facing forward. It has to be completely straight in line with the boot part of the hydrant here. And this is off just a little bit. Not too bad, just a little bit off. Then we wanna check the bolts, make sure all the bolts are tight. So we're gonna go through, if you come around and we feel a bolt that's loose, that's a 5-second penalty. Same thing with the top and bonnet bolts. We wanna check the caps. Everything has to be wrench tight. So we come here with a wrench, we check the caps, make sure we pull on it, it's tight. You have to check each one that way. Tight. Check this one. Tight. You can't just hand tighten everything. You have to make sure everything has to be wrench tight and touch with the wrench. We also want to make sure the hydrant's closed all the way. You can check that by looking in the boot. Also check up here, make sure it is tight. Okay? The next thing we'll do is we'll take the hydrant back apart, make sure that everything is put together correctly inside, and make sure the hydrant operates properly. And that's really about it. So if you have any questions, contact either Gary Stowski in Illinois. Why don't you tell me your email?
Gary.stawski@mh-valve.com.
Or you can contact me, Mike Ramsey, at mramsey, R-A-M-S-E-Y, @westmont.il.gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you.